scale of an examination unless it is online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It won't be safe. It won't be easy under the circumstances. Also.
Absolutely.
Logistics will not be there at all. The schools will not be open.
Yeah.
Insulators would not be there. Material movement would not be there. People to travel and appear for examinations would be a challenge.
Yeah. So, which is where they're having a conversation within the system of how to conduct the NEET. JEE is a lesser problem for them, sir, because उनके पास ना there is another score also, which is JEE January का exam का score भी है उनके पास.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, but NEET is a bigger problem for them.
That's right. Yeah.
And yeah. Are we live? Okay, sir. I think we are live. Am I right? Yeah. So we are live now, sir.
Okay.
I'll briefly tell you how the format will happen so that students also can exactly understand how it will work. Dr. Sancheti would be answering all your questions. At the end of the session, this entire video along with the transcript of the video would be on our website, YouTube and Facebook also. I would request you to keep the questions sharp so that it's easier for Dr. Sancheti to respond back to it. We will first take questions which are slightly generic in nature, which have a larger import and a larger purpose and are more relevant for more number of people. If it's a very specific question for a specific issue, then I would still encourage you to write it to us and we'll respond back to you. It's not that we're running away from that. It is just that because we have 1 hour at the most, and we have 1 hour at the most, and we'll be having many questions. We'll take only those questions, or we rather prioritize those questions which have a larger purpose. And I will first hand it over to Dr. Sancheti to introduce himself. I've done that, but and about SRM University, because the context would be then set of the kind of university Dr. Sancheti heads and so on. Dr. Sancheti, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Perry. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Very good evening, good afternoon to all of you. I'm very happy to join you today for this special session. Friends, I'm Dr. Sandeep Sancheti, Vice Chancellor of the SRM IST, and I have also been part of the various other engineering institutions from time to time in different capacities. I'm very happy that today we are talking about engineering, a very noble profession, a very happening profession, a profession which I love to the core, because I believe in the current circumstances, engineers are the fittest people to serve in any varying role. And that is what is important for us. We'll be discussing a lot of things about that. Engineers have done exceedingly well, whether they have been filmmakers or whether they have been doing forest conservation, or they've been in the civil services, or they've been entrepreneurs, or they've been in any kind of business, all sorts of research, development, academics, managerial roles, finance, etc. Everything suits to them. And all this is being done in SRM IST also in a very big way. SRM IST is one of the most pioneer universities of primarily engineering for the nation. We also have students from around 60 countries from abroad, outside India, in various branches. Today, we offer something like 30, 40 specializations, to be more precise, 40. And out of that, around 10 alone are sitting in the computer science, because computer science related specializations are the most sought after. And we have scaled up our capacity and faculty and our preparedness and our facilities to serve the nation, to serve all of you, those who are interested in that. But we do almost all other domains of the activities. As far as the engineering is concerned, we are one of the top-notch institutions by the rankings of THE and QS in India. Also by the NIRF, we are ranked in top 40 in every sense. Also by various other agencies, which may be NAC, where we are the highest rated institution with A++. And we have been accredited by various international agencies also. So all in all, SRM is a very good option for people aspiring to be doing education in engineering, but almost in all the disciplines. We are a multidisciplinary university. We have beautiful medical facilities, medical programs which are there in pharmacy and other domains like dental and general medicine and surgery, etc. We have agriculture, we have law, commerce, business, humanities, social sciences, fashion design, everything which you named. And therefore, you'll get an environment where you can apply your engineering anywhere, where you can use it the way you like to do, develop your entrepreneurship, develop various other things which are there. Large number of technology labs are there, accredited by the world-renowned bodies so that you can compete in those programs. We have done exceedingly well in hackathons and other things which are there. We're also rated the India's best university last year by FICCI. And also we have received various awards from MHRD, AICT, etc. for Swachhta ranking or clean and smart campus, and also for the great amount of tree plantations and other such social drives which we have done. There are various other things like Vishwakarma Award and other things which have come our way. So I'm very happy to be part of it, and I'd like some of you to join us if you can, and if it matches your interest.
Sir, because you talked of earlier the QS, THE, and NAC, would you explain to the student what the NAC rating would mean? In the sense, when you say NAC A++, how do you measure that, and what exactly happens?
So, as you know, that most of the institutions can be either ranked or rated. Ranking is done by lots of media, magazines. Career 360 also does that particular thing for us. And we have also come out with NIRF, National Institutional Ranking Framework, which is Government of India. But NAC does rating. NAC is one of the most oldest, you can say, body of the country which looks after the quality. So as a part of quality assessment, it gives you a rating. Your quality is highest order, or second highest order, or third highest order. So it has changed its shape and size and its processes from time to time. Till 3 years back, it was primarily an assessment-oriented, a qualitative assessment which was there. But now it is quantitative as well as qualitative. 70% is the quantitative assessment, 30% is qualitative. It's headquartered in Bangalore, and it has done large amount of accreditations, both for universities and the institution. The highest grade you get is when you are 3.51 and above, it's called A++ out of 4. And if you are between 3.25 to 3.26 to 3.50, you get the A+. Below that, you get A, and then of course B+ and B, and like that, which are there. There are certain facilities which government or MHRD or AICT or UGC allows the institutions, and that is generally based on the rankings. For example, online is the current requirement because everything is happening online, including this interaction. And online education currently, as per the prevailing conditions or rules, is allowed only to the what you call the A++ category of institutions like SRM. In addition to, of course, some special provisions are there for the open and distance universities which are conceived right for that particular purpose. So exceptions are there everywhere, but generally A++ is the rating which can be the highest benchmark which are there, and including the government institutions are also ranked by that. In that sense, that the IISc also happens, Indian Institute of Science, or what we know as Tata Institution also, is also ranked by them because they are also a deemed university, and they possibly have the highest rating from them right now.
Okay. Sir, one of the big questions that many students have is that they're always confused about deciding between a college and a course. Would they go for studying in a college, or do they prefer a course in a college not of your preference? So and I know, because a lot of students ask us this question, that they are more happier joining IIT, even though the branch that they get is not of relevance for them, because they want to be seen as studying in IIT. And we know from data, sir, that the placement in IIT beyond the top 2-3 branches has been very abysmal. We were doing some data studies, and we realized that for civil engineering in IIT Delhi also, you have 45% not placed, and textile, chemical, you can keep going on. And whereas the perception is that once you get into IIT, the future is set.
Yeah.
How would you advise a student of deciding between the college of your choice and the course of your choice?
Okay. It's a very good question, I would say, and should help the budding engineers very much. A difficult one also, because there are lots of pressures, lots of inputs, lots of biases, lots of expectations which society or family has. And with that, your decision-making becomes distorted. Now, this is something which is very close to my heart in terms of explaining it to young engineers, budding engineers. My first take would be that those people should take a call on this by themselves. The moment they leave it to others, the call is going to go wrong because you'll not be able to spell out everything unless you take up your own decision. Now, how to go about it is not a straightforward choice because if I can give a counter example, all is not necessarily well in USA, though we all love to go to US for jobs or opportunities or career. All is not necessarily well in IITs or any of the top institutions because there again the students fail and other institutions also students do well. If I give you the examples of people who have done very well, say from non-IIT systems, if you probably see this chief of Tata Sons basically, and Chandrasekharan is a product of NIT Trichy. If you who's defining the IT sector in India now, if you see the banking sector, KV Kamaji is a product of NIT Suratkal. If you see the Satya Nadella is probably a product of Manipal who has come from Manipal setup. So the point I'm trying to make is there is no guarantee that you go to a good institution and everything is in your control and hand. However, my take would be that based on what your career options are, you should take a call. For me, for a potential engineer, the career options could be jobs in industry, which are aplenty, and which is what generally students will go for. The second would be the government jobs, IAS, IPS, railways, PSU, etc., which will be there. The third one for me would be entrepreneurship or own business. The next one would be academics and R&D. Another one would be the managerial roles in various places. Another one would be banking, finance, insurance, which are there. All these jobs are there. Depending upon what your interest is, will decide. For example, there will not be a great craze about GATE in most of the IITs, though they appear they do well. I'm not saying that, but there will not be craze because they find other avenues. If you have to go to a PSU kind of a job, then obviously GATE will be the core and some other institutions will help you possibly much more in that preparation. You want to go abroad, probably IITs will be something which will be more helpful. You want to do entrepreneurship or research, maybe you have to select some institutions which are there. Remember that all these, what you call as an engineering degree, whether it's a BTech and with a certain specialization, they will help you only till your first few years. First job and maybe next job and next to next job, nothing beyond that. After that, your own performance, your own new skills, your own, you can say, interest in certain thing will decide. So if you're looking for the first job, possibly you can decide which institution has a better placement record and you can choose the institution. If you're looking for an academic kind of a profile or a research kind of a profile, which many of them have, you should look for the branch. Many of them have fancy about aviation, aeronautics, and space, which is a flavor of the times. I think once again, you should look for the branch which is there. And therefore, there are various combinations which are there. But if you're under confusion, that you do not know what to do and how to go about it, I think a safe bet would be going for computer science or maybe electronics because they are more job oriented. And once you have a job in hand, probably you'll have some more time to decide about the direction of your career. So like that, you can possibly do. So in doubt, you can take some safer branches like mechanical and computers and electronics. But if you are very fancy, for example, your family has a good entrepreneurship or business making drugs or doing something in biotechnology domain or something like that, I think I'll always prefer you to take biotechnology or chemical engineering or genetics engineering. I think it's doing extremely well in SRM. Around 50% of our students go abroad, most of the top institutions. And with the COVID, with a lot of research happening, with a lot of money going to be pumped in, I think these areas are going to be the flavor of the time. I think this century, a lot of people say, will once again focus on the biotechnology and biodomain. It is also coming into computers, algorithms, and various other things which are there. A lot of genetic influences are there in our working in terms of designing also. So it's a difficult choice, but I would still say that students who are trying to decide which institution and which branch should compulsorily visit those institutions if time permits them. If not, some of their friends or some of their relatives should visit them and look at the core aspect of placement. Don't necessarily go by what we say or an advertisement says or a website says. Just go and check. If the jobs are there, is the profile of jobs very good? For example, this year, we have created a records of sort in the sense that we have done around 8,500 placements in SRM. But one needs to see whether those placements are of their interest. Are they in the core groups which they want, and how much they can do and how much they can benefit. So there will be always a case, but I must say that today's education or engineering education is becoming more flexible. So even if you make a small wrong choice or a choice which may not necessarily be of your great deal interest later after first year, you realize, I think some change of direction or gears is possible. And hopefully, I'm just letting you know something in advance. There may be a new scheme coming in, which will be called National Academic Credit Bank. It is not yet open. It is not yet fully gone through in terms of approval processes. Once that comes, I think it will be all completely student-centric. I may do first year with a focus of mechanical engineering. Then I may change to chemical engineering, and then I may become a material scientist. We should always remember, most of us have changed the directions. If you see Sundar Pichai, I think he was a metallurgical engineer, and later he did the masters in management and all that, and today is the chief of the technologically savvy firm, Google. We also know one of the Nobel laureates of the country, Venki, as we call him. He was, I think, a graduate of physics. Later, he did something in the biosciences and biochemistry and all that, and ultimately he got the Nobel of Chemistry. That is his journey. So he has transferred from one domain to another. I think in today's context, we should always be ready to change the directions. But one last point I would like to add in this, as far as the engineering is concerned, today nano degrees are possible, minor specializations are possible, dual degrees are possible, integrated degrees are possible now. These are all generally true for engineering. And therefore, a student will have to be alert and participative and always demanding what he or she wants. If they remain hungry without letting others know, their hunger will not be met or not be served for. And therefore, they'll have to be very, very involved in what they want and constantly be on their toes for suiting to their interest.
Brilliant, sir. So, sir, there are a lot of questions on computers and IT engineering, IT and all. So, I'll keep them aside for a moment because we had one session yesterday. I'll come back to that. Okay. But there are two very important things that have come out of what you said just now. One is very clearly, I think the entire world and not just India would be investing a lot more in health or working on the health side of it a lot more, because we suddenly realize now that with all the defense preparedness, a small virus can actually just sweep us off our feet. So from that perspective, can you suggest the engineering branches on the bio side of it that you have or the India has, which students should be preferring or making it a choice?
We have all the branches on engineering side available. There is no such a specialization which is not available. I think some of the institutions like IIT Kharagpur, some of the IITs, ISC have more in advanced level, but even SRM has all the complete set. So I would basically start them with the chemical engineering, then biomedical, which will be more related to electronics, then biotechnology, which will be by itself amalgamation of various things, then the genetic engineering. I would also go to the extent to say that even agriculture would be partly related to that. All that produce, all that what we can genetically modified, you can say stuff in terms of vegetables and other things. These are all going to fall into that. There has been a hype for this for a long time. When I graduated in 1982, we were told that biomedical engineering will be the core and it will replace the doctors in a big way. The machines will do the test. But now with IoT and artificial intelligence and everything which has come in, that is becoming a reality. It has come a little late, 30 years late, but it has become a reality, I would say, in the sense that you walk into one arena and machines in a contactless mode will detect everything about you and then give you an assessment, give you a prescription also. Maybe prescription will still remain to be the job of the doctor, or maybe the severity, etc. But basic things would be done by the engineering because of the one simple thing. Once a system is produced and calibrated, it will do thousands of iterations without fail, without fatigue, with repeatability, with reliability, and with correctness to certain requirement, which a human system cannot do. And that's why you are seeing suddenly with the COVID, while there is a lot of research happening in finding out the treatment for and the various things in terms of virus containment, but a lot of mechanical and other devices are also coming into the picture. And therefore, I would say that this will also not remain limited majority to their core domain. For example, computing will be very heavily influenced by the bio side of it. The same would be in terms of the design of the electronic systems. Computer hardware, if you see, will be all wearable electronics which will be there. So there are various things which will be there. And once IoT comes, IoT basically would mean IoT for, let's say, human being. IoT is basically sensors and some sort of signaling and some sort of processing. And there will be sensors inside the body. There will be sensors inside the plants, inside the various such arenas, and they'll constantly be communicating. So they'll all be influenced by what you call the biosciences side of it. I'm a big fan, and I think my advice to all of us or the budding engineers is, even if in their first year in their institutions, this particular course is not taught, they should try to read something as a MOOC course on their own to learn something about it, because it will be very important.
Yeah. The other thing is, sir, you earlier also talked of multiple branches in engineering, and I'm now talking of core engineering. So from I'm still not touching the computers and IT because I'll come back to that later. Sure. Now, the core engineering, there is this, confusion that students have, that, they want to pursue core engineering, but the core engineering companies might not be coming for placement. So from your perspective, and most of the core engineering students also are getting placed in software companies also, right? So from your perspective, it is important to do core engineering, but still, if you're being a part of a software company, then what is the purpose of doing core engineering? So how does this dilemma get itself solved?
I'll not necessarily agree with the last part. What is the purpose kind of a thing? Because to do computer-related work in certain job profiles, let's say programming or something like data analysis, whatever, you can still acquire those skills easily through various other platforms, open platforms. You can still acquire while you are in service. And therefore, a computer engineer possibly has an advantage, but then there are people from other domain who can come into that domain very, very easily. For example, if I have to write a software for electronics, let's say simulation, then I need to know the electronics first and computers later. And therefore, my core area will remain to be my core area and will help me. If I have to write some software for mining, I think my knowledge about mining or my knowledge about mechanical engineering will be core. And therefore, people who come to the computer engineering through core and then develop their skills probably have a dual advantage or a greater advantage. However, I must say that if you're looking for an IT kind of a job, maybe you're safer going through the computers and IT branches. But if you're looking for anything else in your life, it is not necessary that which branch you take. Suppose I want to become an IAS. I need not worry too much about my branch. Suppose I want to become an entrepreneur. If I know my direction, that my family is doing this kind of a business and I'll also develop something like that, then I'll possibly be choosy about the branch. But otherwise, I'll not worry about the branch. I'll worry more about where I can do more innovation, which is there. Suppose I want to do my MBA, Masters in Business Administration. I think branch is completely meaningless. Or rather, I will say meaningful only by saying that you go for a branch which is relatively simpler, which is relatively easy to do and gets you a good grade and gets you a good grounding in the societal working and familiarization with that. And you need not worry about the computers and electronics in that case. So it's all going to be horses for courses kind of a thing in branch. I must say that the students at this point of time, I gave you some 7 or 8 options that what they can choose once they graduate. It's not very easy to do that because everyone in the family will say, hey, you should apply this and do higher studies and go for a Google job or Microsoft job and all. Everything will be there. But even if it is difficult, I think in all the process of going further in our life, if I give you an example, I go to a marriage party and there are 100 dishes. I pretty well know that I cannot eat more than 5 or 10. I'll probably take one quick round and decide, okay, these are the things I'll attempt 5 or 10. The rest I will leave. So there is always a process of selection. There is always a process of elimination, which one should keep in mind. So if you have 8 major choices, eliminate 4 or 5 very easily. Many people still would not like to be an academic or researcher, so you can possibly eliminate it. Many people know that the current government job profiles will not suit them, so they can eliminate. So based on that end goal, one should decide how to go about it. By the way, if you do not know, my dear students, it's targeted to you, that engineering is a profession where the end goal has to be seen first, and then we work backwards, and then we design all the systems and things in place, put things in place to achieve that end goal. If I give you an example of nano car, I think nano was one, that it should be cheap, it should be below 1 lakh, it should be this capacity, that capacity, everything. And then the whole goal was achieved. Engineering is always like that.
And sir, a lot of students are asking for mechanical engineering and the future prospects of mechanical engineering, because there are 3-4 questions I noticed from Sriram, Hemachandra, and yeah, so there are quite a few questions on mechanical engineering. Can you just tell us the pathway for mechanical engineers and the career options that open up?
Okay, I must say that in Hindi we call it Sadabahar branch. It's all seasons branch as we know it. I am an electronics engineer, but given a choice, I'll probably, if I'm going back, I'll probably take mechanical engineering, because I have a very good 3D visualization or a knack for assembling, disassembling things, or putting it in a certain order. So mechanical is always going to be there. Civil is always going to be there, because without this, the infrastructure growth will not be there. And without infrastructure, no country, no economy will grow. So you can be for sure that if you are good, there'll always be scope for you in terms of this. Mechanical also suits very, very well for MBA kind of a profile. If you want to go to Masters of Business Administration, it's well. But please remember that gone are those days when you will work in big industries, dirty your hands, and you'll not be, in shifts and all that. And all those things are gone, because manufacturing has completely changed. Manufacturing has become completely distributed manufacturing. Today, the cars will be assembled in smaller places. Today means, when I say today means in recent coming years, not really today. Body parts will be done by the 3D printing, which will be there. Everything can be measured, mapped, assessed. Materials will be the core thing for world to grow if it has to do well. Today in electronics, if every major change is happening, it's because of materials. And mechanical and materials are very, very well connected. I am very fancied by one fact when it comes to mechanical, that today in all our houses, we hear that a lot of work for the ladies, which is there. They have to cook at home because they're all confined and the family is there sitting on their head. How about a help in the kitchen? I think a help in the kitchen will be once again a 3D printing cooking machine, which can print dosas, which can print pizzas and all that. And a 3D kind of a setup could be sitting there. So all these are nothing but mechanical systems which are going to be there. There is no way it's not going to be there. It's not going to be eliminated. There is an importance of physical systems. And as long as physical systems are there, mechanical, electronics, and civil is bound to be there. People should not worry, but because the application, because the control will be electronic, because the IoT and sensors and all those things will be there, I think they should acquire secondary skills. Just saying that I am mechanical engineering, so I'll remain confined to my core, will not serve the purpose of your life. Today, I am an administrator. I need to know the HR domain. I need to know the finance domain. I need to know the psychological domain. Also, in addition to my engineering, which I never was taught, finance also. And therefore, as you move along, as you upgrade yourself and as you move further up the ladder, I think you will need all those skills from time to time. And one thing for sure, that if you want to be an entrepreneur, there will be nothing like a mechanical engineering branch with an added input of computer science in terms or electronics, whatever it may be.
I'll come back to that question sometime later, sir. There is one important question that's coming up. What is mathematical engineering? Is there something called mathematical engineering?
I have not heard of the term mathematical engineering. Engineering, obviously,
this is a question asked by Debashish Mahapatra. So I just thought it was an interesting question for me, so I put it up.
It's interesting. The connotations keep changing. Engineer is to create, basically. If you see, the real meaning of an engineering is to create, and mathematical engineering would be to create models. Today, everything which I do in my life possibly can be created in terms of mathematical models. All the electronics, all the mechanical simulations which you see, They may be empirical, they may be physical, they may be analytical, they may be electrical, whatever that may be. The background of that is all mathematical. Some sets of equations, some sets of boundary conditions, some sets of models, some sets of matrices. For example, if you see AI, I think I see that being a matrix of conditions, inputs and outputs which are there. So you keep modeling them and keep moving the pointers here and there based on what you require. So one can always call it by a new name which fancies them. Basically, mathematics is the core of engineering, is the mother of engineering. I think there is no denial of that. And therefore, I'll accept that, yes, there can be a thing called mathematical engineering would be a term.
Okay. Sir, and again, a lot of questions in terms of change of career path. For example, can you do mechanical engineering and do at bachelor's level and do aeronautical at the master's level? Or some such thing? Is there a possibility of that?
That is how all the new branches of engineering have come into being. Okay. We all know that earlier it used to be civil engineering only, and in civil engineering also it used to be predominantly diploma. Engineering became later. And from that emanated mechanical and mining and metallurgy. We used to have a lot of debate amongst our students and our faculty a few years back, which is the best branch of engineering, which is the most motherly in today's context, who has given rise to, who's controlling the whole thing. And therefore, you can possibly say that the branches are all going to be important. Branches are not going to be something which is independent of each other, and one need not worry too much about the branch, because as you move along, the course will have to be changed for sure. Even computer scientists who go start doing the programming, they do AI or machine learning or big data, they remain in a very specific job or graphics or whatever it may be. And therefore, or maybe if they go to finance sector, they just do the coding part of it. And therefore, things keep very, very different from what you study. What you study is your base. Please remember, आपकी जो नींव है, your foundation will remain always covered. Foundation will always remain, but you can keep changing the elevation. You can keep changing the building on top of that, and that is what engineering is about. All right.
So Jagdeep, I think you got your answer. So this is a question from Vasudeva. He's from. Okay, I'll leave that question actually because it's very specific. The other question that keeps coming back is about EEE, sir. EEE, and there is one interesting question of Geo-Informatics in engineering. Would you throw some light on that, sir?
Okay.
So one is the prospect of EEE. One is the prospect of EEE, and two is the prospect of Geo-Informatics engineering.
Okay, difficult for me to give you answer on the Geo-Informatics directly, but EEE, because as the world is getting developed, the requirement of energy or per capita use of energy is growing up in India and all developing countries and all other, you can say, countries of the world. And therefore, the energy generation, distribution, energy in every sense in terms of control, power transmission, everything is changing. I personally fancy this for the government jobs because energy is a sector which is very heavily in the control of government, typically in India and maybe elsewhere also. And therefore, those who are seeking government jobs possibly will find it there. But all the industries also depend on that. Their power conditioning is the most important thing for their survival, because if a breakdown happens, they'll lose huge amount of time and of course the money and maybe the commitments also. And therefore they have alternative sources of energy of all kinds. And today solar becoming very big. All the industries will require their internal maintenance, internal control, distribution, everything which is there. So electrical for sure is important. Electrical is the mother, as was being discussed in the last point. Electrical came as a mother branch from which I would say the computer science came, electronics came. From electronics, the communications came, or electronics and communication became. From these came the computer science, and when the computer science and electronics combined together, it became IT. And now that IT and computer science are, once again, there are marriages happening between these branches. So you can say the third generation, fourth generation happening. So maybe you can say about internet, there is a discipline, or they may be cybernetics and these kind of things which are there. And then multimedia is also a branch. So electrical for me is a mother branch, if I may say so. One should not refrain from going going to that branch. Why? Because if you are doing a degree in electrical, I think some of the IITs still give you a degree in electrical engineering if you are going for electronics or communication or anything. If you go to some of the top universities of the world and do a bachelor's in this domain, they'll always call it as electrical engineering. They don't differentiate like what we do in India. So electrical has a good scope. Numbers are going down in terms of the jobs in government. That is some worry, but still with the growth, this will happen. You asked about the Geo-Informatics. Now, I wouldn't be able to explain this particular domain very, very nicely, but I would again say that this domain is more related to, let's say, the civil engineering domain. Geo-Informatics will be maybe to some extent to mining and other domains, also metallurgical also. And therefore, these become the core. For example, an economy is growing. If economy is growing, then the real estate is growing. And if the real estate is growing, half of it is steel and cement. So steel is metallurgy or mining, and the cement is materials which are there. And therefore, Geo-Informatics possibly will have a connection with some of them, in my opinion, and therefore it is going to be doing all right.
Sir, and then there is one question from Vasudeva. Vasudeva, I'll answer the first question and I'll pose the second question to sir. The first question is the job opportunities post-COVID. I think you are about to enter the engineering stream, so you don't need to worry about what happens 4 years hence, because we have a long way to go. I think the bigger worry is for people who are right now studying, so we'll leave that. But he asked another question about data sciences, sir. AI and data sciences. What is your opinion about AI and data sciences? And a lot of questions on computers again, CSC again, of how does one choose a specialization within CSC in terms of AI, blockchain, data sciences, machine learning, and so on and so forth. Gaming, you have all the things.
Not an easy answer. This is probably the fourth or fifth generation. As I was trying to tell you about the family of electrical engineering, it falls under that. And you know that to understand the youngsters is very, very difficult. What is their mind is very difficult. So same is true with the branches. I have a small statistics in front of me, which is possibly 2 years old, which is future of jobs. And I'm just naming 8 major areas where the jobs will be there. It's called basics and infrastructure, consumers, energy, financial services, healthcare, information and communication technology, mobility, and professional services. These are the 8 major areas. Now, to all my dear friends and Maheshwarji, if I see that result, which is there in my hand, 6 of these areas out of 8 list software engineering or computer engineering as either at number 1 or number 2 in terms of job opportunities in that domain. Even if I see energy, software engineers will be required, many more are required there. And similarly, if I see the mobility obviously will be there, but if I see the financial services, you probably will be surprised that today engineering is not limited to what we call mechanical, civil, or electrical, which we are talking. The engineering is becoming the food engineering, the fashion engineering, the fire engineering. I would also say the financial engineering. Most of the top-notch jobs, which are IITians or some other institutions get, students get, are in the financial domain. And therefore, you can say that these domains will continue to grow from the projections which we have in future. And therefore, all these specializations are going to grow. But there are people who are in this domain, but they are scared of programming. They are not ready to write programming because they think it's against their fundamentals, or they don't fancy these kind of things which are there. I think that kind of a thing will not be right. One will have to do the programming. One will have to do what we call software development. And all these domains will grow. It's difficult, but right now AI is the highest order because it is prevailing everywhere. AI is the one which is the top-notch end of the application orientation of this particular branch. But when it comes to, let's say, networking, it may not be that high. When it comes to data science, it's probably, once again, one of the top ones which is there. Once it comes to various other domains, I think you can scale them here and there depending upon where you are. But all these domains are going to do well. Why? Because most of the job profiles are going to be this domain. And all our agencies, fortunately, are talking to the chiefs of our statutory bodies in these course of discussions later also. And you can talk to them. They are also advocating the branches where the jobs are there is what students should take, and where the institutions should also create the capacity. Keeping that in mind, we have done 9 branches in computer science alone. That is in addition to IT and software engineering and other things which are there. So yes, all of them will do, but even if you have taken one and you fancy another one, you can do it as a side dish. You can do extra courses, you can do MOOC courses. I think computer science is one domain which is highly amenable for learning from outside, online, anytime, anywhere kind of a mode. Most of us today who are professors or senior professors teaching computer science are not necessarily computer science graduates. We are teaching all types of subjects to you who are primarily electrical at BTech level, then at MTech level, maybe electronics, and then later PhD level computer science and research, other things which are there. And therefore, we have changed gears and directions from time to time. You should be more ready, because in your case, for the young students, the changes will be much faster than what you probably can anticipate or be.
Sir, again, earlier when you talked of mechanical and also core engineering, you said that only that core engineering would not, you need to add something to that to make yourself valuable and wanted. Yeah. Can you just throw some light of the kind of courses that you have for that group of core engineering students, where they can add a software qualification so that they become more valuable and wanted?
Okay, software qualifications sometimes, Maheshwarji, are also added not necessarily by the higher degree itself. You can do it as I said, side dish. You can take the mini and major projects. You can do adoptions through your final year project dissertation, also through your industrial internships which are there, through innovations and through hackathons which are there, through MOOCs also you can possibly do. And a lot of students today fancy about code writing, and we also teach them those things, and a lot of them write about the apps which are there. So all that is very easy. I've seen lots of students who have taken guidance from me from time to time, from any branch of engineering, without even formal courses. They migrate into computer science and have been highly successful. But when it comes to courses, I think at the MTech level, the courses are specialization level. BTech is a general degree. 4-year degree is not a highly specialized or even a specialized, I would say. It's only at a base level. So you go to a specialization level, one should be very choosy about that why you want to do and how it will be useful. Many of us do the courses MTech for sake of continuity or for sake of completion of higher studies. I think that should not be the order of the day. One should try to get placed from their institutions, and based on 1 or 2 years of experience, and if you decide that further higher studies are going to be helpful in your career, I think that will be a wonderful step if you can take that. Because once you come out of your job, you are very determined to do well. Otherwise, it's a status quo, like you've done BTech, sometimes casually, sometimes seriously. You may still do the MTech non-seriously sometimes, which is not good. And unfortunately, in Indian context of campus placement, it is sometimes seen that MTechs are already not doing well. They were not placed in their BTech course, and therefore they have come to MTech. I think we have to wipe off that notion and raise the bar of specialization's performance. By the way, India is a country where BTech is very good level in terms of overall performance, our graduation. But our masters is not sought after anywhere in the world. For the world, masters from outside is very important. I think collectively, all of us, students and teachers and institutions, all put together, should raise the bar of what we call the postgraduate programs by choosing them in a very serious manner and then doing it. So there are lots of options which you can do, a lot of cross-disciplinary. For example, I would surely say IoT is a domain where every discipline will be useful. IoT is going to be used in medicine. IoT is going to be used in agriculture in a big way. IoT is going to be used in the home automation. IoT is going to be used in machine automation. And therefore, why would not an IoT specialization have a person from any background for that matter? And I would say that financial engineering is nothing but a mathematical engineering in that sense, since we're talking about mathematical engineering today. You can say so that people have this easy option from engineering. Engineering is the one field. From here, you can go to sciences. From there, you can go to commerce. From there, you can go to arts and commerce rather easily. I must quote one common example, which is prevailing in my family, broader family, that we have an unwritten rule that all our youngsters in the family, till their +2, are mandatorily wanted or required to go to the mathematics or the science discipline. And from then onwards, they can choose whatever they want. And after that, a lot of them have gone to the chartered accountancy or finance and the legal profession. But the the level which sets in with the initial scientific logical thinking and all that probably helps you in every other domain whenever you go there, and you tend to do well. And that is the reason engineers are very competitive. One last word on this particular domain itself. When it comes to jobs can be anywhere. I may be an engineer, I may be applying for a banking or a finance job, or maybe an administrative job. What is required in that is, when you appear in the competitive examination, three things: your communication skills and language, which can be learned by anyone, and anyone can do well. It's not proprietary of engineers. But when you look at the remaining two skills, one is called as the analytical skills, and the second one is called as the IT skills. They are much better in an engineer compared to any other graduate. And that is the reason when you see competitive examinations of any kind, engineers tend to outscore them. So that's the beauty of engineering. And beauty of engineering is that it allows you to change the directions, disciplines, and majors and minors very, very easily, because it creates what we call a base for the pizza, and it is not a full pizza. So what topping you want, what cheese you want, probably will give you the final taste of it, maybe, or maybe the cooking of it will give you the taste. But engineering, BTech engineering is nothing but the base of the pizza.
Sir, earlier you said, I think I heard it from you, that you said you have 9 branches or specializations within CSC.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that, sir?
Elaboration will possibly take time. I can, if you
just tell us the branches that you have, so that we the students know.
I'll simply try to name the 9 branches. These are with the specializations. The core degree will be called computer science, because at the undergraduate level, you cannot be called as a highly specialized or a specialized, but some specialization can be given. The first one is the artificial intelligence and machine language. The second one is big data analysis. The third one is cloud computing. The fourth one is computer networking. These are all in the alphabetical order. Then the IoT, then the IT as a specialization. IT is more application oriented, if you can say so. Then software engineering, which is there. Then the blockchain technology, which is there. We also have a fancy thing about the gaming technology, which is there. So like this, these are the 9 specializations which we offer. People sometimes get, slightly difficulty that, oh, I have not got AI, I have not got things of my choice. I would not worry too much about that. I will still say that you may take whatever the best you get under the circumstances and enjoy the rest by doing it yourself. Engineering is very easy to do these days, because the teaching learning material is very easily available. Everything is openly accessible. The learning materials, the MOOCs are there, the open labs are there, the virtual labs are there. You can get the certification from best of the organizations like Microsoft or Google's and Cisco's and all that. They can certify anything in networking, anything in programming, anything in algorithm development, anything which you want to do in big data, possibly can be certified. But make sure that you do things with rigor, things with quality, things with purpose. Many of us, unfortunately, do things for sake of it, to show to people that I've done something, not necessarily getting under the skin of it properly. If you do it properly, I'm sure you'll be a winner. Whatever you may do, you'll not have any hassles.
And sir, again, with all the problems that we're having because of Corona and the travel bans and all those things, and also aeronautical has been, at least the industry has been under some pressure for some time. What is the future of aeronautical engineering in the current context, sir?
I think
till this is a question from Faiz Nizami, who's been asking this question for some time. So I want to.
I think till a month back, it was extremely rosy. And I would say once the COVID disappears, it will become even more rosier. Why? Because today everyone wants to connect with every other person. Travel is an essential part. Everyone has a pocket full of money to travel easily and afford the air travel. Air travel also become cheaper. Why air travel? Today we are talking, even in the COVID times, I was reading in the internet that still Elon Musk is talking about his space visits which are happening, and there are some dates announced for that and people being enrolled for that. So I think aeronautical on the extreme end would be the space. But on the lower end, if you see, today all these unmanned air vehicles, all this delivery, all these sprays happening in COVID times, all these civil supplies and food, everything is happening. All these mapping and controlling of the what you call the security and policing. I think it's all becoming airborne. Nothing wrong with airborne. So aeronautical is not necessarily that you are just confined to the aircraft. But please understand, when you learn about the aeronautical engineering, you can develop the CAD for that. You can develop an odd part. Aeronautical engineering is heavily dependent on materials. I must give you an example which I fancy and quote a lot. That the space ISRO developed a lot of lightweight materials for its own requirement. So it was very heavily material oriented. But the same material became the boon for Jaipur Foot, because it was a lightweight material, very sturdy materials, which we see. Even common people, I find, they use the aeroplane tire rubber for a shoe sole and various other things which are there. So what I'm trying to tell you is aeronautical engineering is not necessarily confined to flying in the air and the job in the air. It's a lot to do with the industry, manufacturing, and maintenance and various other things which are there. I think if I talk about my electronics, lot of energy will be generated in the upper atmosphere rather than the ground, because the ground is getting limited, radiation is less. So we'll have a lot of airborne ships and vehicles which are going to become base stations for mobile, which are going to become the energy generators for solar collection and then beaming the energy on the ground. So air in the space is going to be something very fancy thing in times to come. Yes, people will have to take a calculated risk because we don't know what can happen in the world, especially after COVID. जैसा हम कहते हैं हिंदी में कि एक चींटी भी हाथी को मार देती है या कंट्रोल कर देती है, परेशान कर देती है, शायद ऐसा ही कुछ हो गया है कि कोविड ने बिना बताए हम सबको जगा दिया है या कन्फाइन कर दिया है, डरा दिया है. So anything can happen, but yes, there's nothing wrong with the aeronautical engineering.
There's a question from Hemant Bunala, sir. His question is, how about marine engineering, and would you suggest any good colleges for marine engineering? And you can take names, sir. Please feel free.
Okay. I would not take the names. It's not necessarily good. But marine engineering is doing good in Bombay and Chennai and such places, which is there. Marine engineering possibly can be divided into offshore and onshore also, because there are a lot of platforms and there are a lot of things called vessels, and there are a lot of other things which are required. Marine today, if you go into shipbuilding, I think it's a very complicated engineering. Very heavy industry is involved in that. All sorts of communication, all sorts of generations, all sorts of safety, all sorts of materials, all sorts of structures come into that, and therefore it's a very robust branch, if I may say so. Only thing is, one will possibly call it the working conditions may be a little tough, as we sometimes perceive it for the mining engineering, and that was the reason why sometimes the girls were not allowed for mining engineering. It is now probably allowed. I think in the same sense, you can say that for marine engineering, maybe the working conditions sometimes may be a little different and tough, but otherwise the scope will be much higher. And I think the financial rewards are much better in this.
Sir, because you talked of nano degree, you talked of minor somewhere, you talked of major somewhere, and so on and so forth. Can you please explain to the students the structuring of the 4-year course in a university like yourself, of what happens in the first year, when you take the nano, when do you take the MOOCs, and so on and so forth? Can you just slightly elaborate on that, sir?
Yeah, some 10 years back, an engineering degree was given with 220 credits. And to understand the credit, one can say that one lecture hour will be per week will be 1 credit. Basically 40 lecture hours will be converted into 3 credits in a semester, something like that. You can understand it, Google it, see it. And 220 credits will earn your degree. It became 200 later, then it became around 180, 175. And today, the prevailing condition is 160 in India. I think that's a prescription from AICTE also today. But we find the foreign countries, some advanced countries are giving it at 140. The purpose is not to reduce the load of the student, but to make the student self-reliant, to study, to allow a student to study what he or she wants to study, rather than we push in everything, we shove in everything. The student will choose what they want to learn and how much and when they want to learn. So first year will be once again a little bit of foundation of engineering in terms of certain workshops, practices, certain geometrical drawings, certain concepts of energy and various other mechanical and processes and all that. Maybe a little bit of advanced of mathematics, because mathematics is the core. Applied, for example, electronics will need a lot of probability, which will be there. Computer will again need a lot of computing, which is there. Mathematics, which will be there. And therefore, we'll do that. After first year, people are generally allowed to take MOOC courses. Today, the government regulation says that we can allow up to 20% of MOOC courses. And those MOOC courses can come from any private sector, public sector. Government of India has done wonderfully well with an NPTEL for engineering, at least to begin with. And now it's going to all other disciplines also. Now the SWAYAM and SWAYAM Prabha is also there where you can do that. So you can earn the credits. Credits can be transferred, counted against your course requirements, which are there. So a lot of flexibility, which is there. We ourselves give something like 6 to 8 courses as a open-ended courses. While I'm doing electronics, I can do a course from mechanical. I can do a course from chemical, because a lot of electronic fabrication will be chemical fabrication. And like that, I can do things from computer science and various other things where I'm seeking a job. I can do all that. And therefore, a lot of flexibility is given to the student when they study, and therefore one will have to keep a vigil on how to change the direction, when to change the direction, which is the thing. And I may say so that we are now contemplating, even AICTE has a provision, if I'm not wrong, there is a branch called interdisciplinary engineering. That means you can choose combination of courses and do your engineering, or we can offer interdisciplinary engineering. I told you about a concept of NACB, where the potpourri will be completely yours. You will choose, and accordingly, on basis of what you have done, we will name the degree and will still give you a degree. And in worst case, it will be Bachelor of Liberal Education, or it can be liberal engineering also, if it is so required. I mean, I'm just saying, in future, such a thing can happen. And therefore, people can take courses of various kind. Now, if you take enough courses of minor specialization, sub-specialization, suppose I take all the 8 courses for mechanical engineering while I'm doing my computer engineering, I can get a minor specialization in computer engineering or mechanical engineering, whatever I'm doing. According to that, the sub-specialization can be there, minor can be there, major can be there. And therefore, you can build your specializations in your own way. Different institutions have different vehicles for that. And even if different institutions don't have enough vehicles for you, you can do it on your own by accumulating those degrees and credits from good institutions. One beauty of future courses will be that once such schemes are open, you can do an odd course from even from Stanford, or even for Harvard or Oxford. You can do some from IITs and IIMs, some from other good institutions. So at least you'll know their culture, you'll know their style, various other things will be there. So in future, it will be a completely student-centric education. Engineering education also would be like that. And we will allow you to build your own career in your own way. That is a dream we are also trying to propagate and promote.
Yeah. Sir, lastly, a lot of questions, because the JEE examination has been postponed. There is a lot of uncertainty about the dates. There is uncertainty about the admission cycle and how it will impact the overall thing. And you also have SRM JEE, which is your own examination. Can you throw some insight of how are people like you thinking, because it's an entrance examination that has to happen, and so on and so forth? Because a lot of students are asking of when does the examination happen, how do they prepare, how do they slot themselves, and so on.
Rather too early to comment, but I must also say that in addition to my SRM JEE, which we do, I've also been the chairperson for the AIEEE till it was in existence, and I played a big role. And the current JEE form, when it was conceived in 2012 and 13, I was also an integral part. And I was also looking after all the foreign admissions of engineering in the government institutions of the country for a long time. And therefore, I'm very familiar with that. And I can say with some sort of a degree of authority here that all is not lost. We should not worry too much about all this. Engineering, to some extent, can be more flexible when it comes to its first year. You all know that most of the engineering institutions will start mid-July and end in somewhere in the first week of December or mid-December. We will still have 1 month in our hand in case things get delayed, overly delayed. We still have 1 month in our hand. Even if we lose, let us say, God forbid, we lose 6 months, full semester, that the COVID situation all over the world prevails. What happens if we lose 6 months? I hope by 6 months everything will be intact because all the things will be in control with new medicines and vaccines and other things that will happen. We'll also have a lot of knowledge about this whole problem. And so we can still squeeze in one course of first semester, spread it in such a fashion that it gets spread into 7 semesters. I have myself done a degree from an institution where something like this happened. And they took a course where they spread the courses here and there and made sure that we finished our degree in time. I think that's the flexibility engineering enjoys very much. Semester systems allow you to do that. Fortunately, we have 2 semesters, and in between semester, there is a gap. The only loss we can possibly have is sometimes of internship, which has become mandatory in recent times. So maybe agencies like AICT will have to take a call how to go about it. Sometimes internships can be substituted with mini projects. Sometimes it can be substituted with good projects within the institution. Sometimes with the seminar also. Sometimes with something else also. So maybe a little bit of it will happen on the internships. But otherwise, a month or 2 is well within our control. I think my opinion is that the NTA should conduct and should carry on the business as usual, even if it is slightly delayed, because that's very tricky, and doing any other thing will be a huge compromise. There'll be a lot of hue and cry about that. But in worst case, if nothing happens, I think JEE main first version is already available to us, and most of the students also appeared for that, I'm pretty sure. And therefore, that should be counted. And if some institutions want something on top of that, probably they can count 10%, 20% of +2 result, or maybe something of 10th result also in certain way. And if not, maybe something else also can be seen in terms of some SOPs and all that. If they so wish, they can probably do like that. Indian conditions, SOP will be very difficult, but in foreign conditions, SOP are very important. Or maybe the other activities they have done can be very important in this particular case. But I think there should not be any panic. Students should relax, develop new habits, develop new hobbies, learn some new subjects which you may actually end up studying in the first year. Wherever you may go, first year is fairly standard. So don't lose this time just sitting at home and worrying about what will happen to my engineering. I don't think so. I will still say that while this problem may be man-made, but the time given is a God-given time. And therefore, let's use it to our purpose and enjoy it also.
And you still haven't said much about SRM JEE, sir. What is your thinking of SRM JEE?
Okay, SRM-JEE will also have to sail with in the same boat like the nation does. We cannot be unique in that. But fortunately for us, because we have less institutions under SRM-JEE, SRM group of institutions will only come. So we'll be much more flexible. We will invite ideas from the people who have applied to us. People should apply to various institutions. That's my advice. And those who have applied to us can freely write to us what do they think about it. We'll be much more flexible. Will not be so much bound like the government institutions. They have a different role and they're looking after the whole country. Today, we are more flexible and more free. And once we delay it slightly here and there, if the situation so demands, we will be able to control it much more easily in our case compared to any other institution. So people who applied and who are foreseeing their interest in SRM should feel very, very comfortable and relaxed. That's my advice.
There's a question from Sriram Leburi, sir. He's talking about the prospects of mechatronics.
Yeah.
And what is the future that it holds for them?
To some extent, when I answered mechanical and when I answered 3D printing and various things, 3D coordinate measurement machines and various other things which are there, manufacturing of UAVs and these things going to kitchen and the hospitals and all that, I think mechatronics comes into that picture very much. Mechanical in modified form is mechatronics. Mechatronics, fortunately, is doing well from job point of view right now. But we don't know how the manufacturing will shape up in future, because we see a lot of jobs going to the computer sector, computer side, and therefore there may be a lot of robotics and automation coming into that. But once again, if the robotics becomes the fore, mechatronics will remain to be a branch. I don't see, Maheshwarji, that a branch of engineering losing its sheen. Each one is interdependent upon each other. It's only the average people who are in the sea or a pool, big pool of people where they are all fighting for the same job, possibly can say, no, I don't have a job and I'm not surviving and I'm not getting the job what I want. But excellent and good people, hardworking people will always find a place. I must say to all my engineers that even if one is unemployed for some time, an unemployed engineer always has a better job potential than compared to any other unemployed graduate of other kinds. And therefore, they should keep their head high. And more the difficult the circumstances, more the challenges, I think the more the hard work and specializations and built up on something new should keep happening. That's how engineers will succeed and survive.
Okay. Last question, sir. This is from a person called Revant. He's got 91 percentile in JEE in the January examination. And he's been pursuing the dream of getting into NITs, IITs, and so on and so forth. But he's just wondering, because of the kind of percentile he has, how do private universities welcome people like Revant? Because affordability is always an issue for some of these people, which is why they prefer a government college to begin with. So in terms of scholarships or fee concessions or any such things, how does a private university work around it?
Private is very, very competitive. This subject is also very dear to me. My dear Raven, I have worked in government for 29 years, and last 7 to 8 years, I've been in the private sector now. In government, I have headed the 7 NITs and 1 School of Planning and Architecture in different capacities from time to time, including NIT Surathkal, NIT Trichy, NIT Calicut, etc. Therefore, I can very well answer your question. The cost of education anyway is high everywhere, whether it is in the private or the government. Government subsidizes that to some extent. Now there is a pressure on the government that they cannot subsidize to the extent they can. And as a result, we know even IITs are charging very heavy fee relatively. And once again, NITs are also increasing the fee. IIMs have already increased the fee. Various other institutions are increasing the fee because we cannot be dependent on the public money. Yes, we know the allocation to the higher education in the current budget. We know that it's a marginal increase, but the number of government institutions are going up in significant numbers. And therefore, the same small kitty is getting distributed in that. And therefore, there'll be a compromise if they don't charge the enough fee. So when it comes to fee, you need not bother. And like you said, that affordability is a question. All of us understand that. Government understands that. The public understands that. The institutions and all of us are taking care of that through scholarships and the fee waivers and various other things which are there. And then, of course, banks and other agencies are there to give you the loans. We also give something like 30 crores as a scholarship per year from SRM alone. And large number of them go to engineering, and large number of them obviously are an entitlement of the top performers like you who are 95% and above. And therefore, you should explore these things. If you're exploring a good institution and you're exploring the fee, I'm sure you'll succeed. Like our students, when they go to US and other such advanced countries, they will also explore by applying to many other places, write their SOPs, write various things and seek the scholarship. You can seek it from us and you can get it also. So don't worry and don't differentiate amongst private and the government. Where your dream is going to be met, where your peers are advising you what is good, where your branch of specialization is available, or the where your path of specialization is available. For example, the Students Abroad program is something which is fancied by the current generation of students. SRM is very good in that. Whereas when we find the government, it is not very easy to do it. because of their financial resources, because of other limitations which are there. And therefore, once again, you can choose the private institutions because of that reason, that you can do many things. One of my students has recently gone to Harvard under SAP program, and he has probably lived his life by learning the subjects he wanted to learn. And he's now very excited to go and do engineering physics rather than engineering alone, because that is what was fancying him. So if I try to conclude what is the difference between a government institution, a typical government institution, not the high-end government institution, and a typical private institution, I generally call them self-finance institution, because private in Indian context is sometimes taken poorly. So in self-finance, so the difference for me, all of us are working for quality, ranking, and rating. Fine. All of us want to improve ourselves. So we are trying quality, ranking, and rating, private and self-finance alike. However, the differentiators are like this. When it comes to the government institution, their focus is on what we call access, on equity, and on transparency. These are their virtues. They are their strong points which are there. That's why the reservations are there, the state quotas are there, women's quotas are there, various things which are there, which is good. I appreciate that. But that will not necessarily bring the quality up. See the qualities which the self-finance sector brings to you. The self-finance sector brings the qualities, not necessarily the access and equity. Yes, access is increasing because private sector is growing, but what it brings is the speed, efficiency, and the diversity. Speed always helps. Efficiency also brings better value for the money and better timely decisions. And the obviously the efficiency is once again a return which is there, and the diversity is something changing. For example, I told you these 9 specializations which we are offering. It will not be easy to get these specializations in the government sector for the simple reason that they cannot employ the faculty so easily. They cannot remove the old faculty or transfer the old faculty or graduate them into something new easily. All these things cannot be done. And therefore, the private or the self-finance sector has the beauty of what we call diversity. They can start something new very easily. They can easily do the partnerships with the likely partners, industries. We have all the industrial labs in all the domains. Microsoft, for example, has done the AI lab in recent times, which are there. There are various such things which are there. And therefore, with that support, we can easily grow into domain which we want and shed off the old weight. Whereas in government, it's slightly difficult. I'm not saying government is wrong. Government in its own right is doing beautiful. I have made my all life in government. I've studied in government. I love them. But there are limitations and reservations. That's why privatization is coming in railways, is coming in oil and gas.
But in terms of affordability, sir, how do you deal with that? In terms of affordability, how do you help a student like Revant get into your thing where I understand the loan part of it, but how does he go about, or how welcoming would you be of his issue of affordability, in terms of fee structures and those?
So loan is not what we control. Loan is because our institutions are reputed. The bankers easily give the loan. They know that one has come through competitive process. We don't necessarily advise them that you go for loan or something. What we do is in what our control. Deferment of fees is what we do. Scholarships is what we do. Waivers is what we do. You'll be surprised to know that we take 200 students, especially from the sports domain. For them, everything is free, not even a single paisa of tuition fee, not even a single paisa of hostel fee, not even for food which is there. When we send students for abroad, students abroad program, we have different schemes where different costs are shared. Travel cost is there, tuition cost is there, different things are shared. When it comes to our own tuition fee, a lot of students, most of the 30 crores, as I'm telling you, is going towards the engineering because we are very engineering focused institution. So students can get the benefit. It's there in our brochure. It's there in our website. However, those who would like a specific information can write to me at vc@srmist.edu.in. I'll repeat it. VC for short form of Vice Chancellor @srmist.edu.in. And my directors of admissions will respond to you in reference to your query once it comes to me. I promise to you that the response time will be something like 48 hours. I'm taking 48 hours because I travel a lot and sometimes I am unable to attend my own emails regularly. That is why I'm taking more time in this particular case.
That's very gracious
You will
of
be
you.
advised properly on that.
That's very gracious of you, sir. Thank you so much for passing on the mail ID, because students would love to write to you.
It'll be my pleasure.
One last question, which is very interesting, and I'm sure you will also be very happy with this. Shadab Khan says he wants to be a researcher and a scientist. How does he go about being that?
Okay. Sometimes science is a domain which is very fundamental to its nature. Engineering is a domain which is very application oriented. Of course, there is a lot of overlap between the two. One cannot live without another. Science will not survive without application, and applications without the science. I think a person who wants to do research and academic is the most welcome thing, because I personally believe that it gives you a beautiful career. During the career, you can do a lot of migrations and enjoy doing newer things. The longevity of the career is there, and also it may not be financially rewarding to begin with, but later it can be, and it gives you a very satisfying profile or a profession in general that the students tend to recognize, that you build their career, help them in some stage or other. And therefore, academic and research are conjoined twins. If you are considering research, consider academics also, because if you are doing research, talk to youngsters about your research. They will refine, they'll challenge you, and that will further feed your research. And then it will help you in teaching also. So they are connected. Please do that. If you are decide whether you are application oriented, whether you are design oriented, whether you are application oriented, come to engineering. But if something fancies you in the fundamental things, like why the gravitation force is not changing, why the magnetic poles or something like that, I think I would advise you to go into the sciences of it, or when you want to deal with the materials, their atomic structures and things of that nature, possibly sciences will be doing wonderfully well. However, one should know that in current circumstances, the 4 or 5 big pillars which are making the science and engineering survive are nothing but, one, you can call it the material science and technology. Another one you can call computer science and technology. Another one you can possibly call biosciences and technology. Another one you can call it nanosciences and technology. And therefore, I have no differentiation when it comes to who is making survival of who. They are connected. Just take the courses as you like. When you move ahead, if you don't like something, discard it and take something new. I think by the time you graduate, these schemes will be in force. They'll be available to you, and you will have a lot of happy learning experience. I must give you an example here. Currently, when you are doing your degree, you enter at one point, and at the end of 3-4 years, you get a degree. Whether you like it or not, you'll get only that. You cannot come out in between. The things which we are conceiving right now will be not a fixed pipe, not a frozen pipe. It will be a leaky pipe. You can make an exit and make an entry anytime in next 10 years also and complete your degree. In between, if you start fancying, let's say, something on information security, and bankers are giving you contract to do the debugging and bugging of their own softwares which they have developed, because that is a domain which is highly paying. Googles are paying thousands and thousands of dollars. Microsofts are paying thousands and thousands of dollars for finding out the bugs in their softwares which are there. And if you fancy that, you can leave your education and start developing systems for the application of the industry. So these kind of education which we are conceiving now, system which we are conceiving now, will help the research and academic profile very much. That's my belief.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, can you just, for a last 2 minutes, wrap up of what is your advice to all the engineering aspirants out there who are looking to you for advice, and how do they plan it out? Just a small brief.
First and the foremost for me would be, believe in yourself, also enjoy it. Engineering, to some extent, is a competitive profession, but maybe an easy profession for survival, I'm saying. Not necessarily. When it comes to excellence, it's very competitive everywhere. But for survival, it's very, very easy. And that is the reason why I would say most of the people dream to become engineer very easily, and therefore you should take it easy also, and you should also decide what your goals and priorities are. I would also say that engineering is to create something. So ultimate satisfaction would be if you are able to create something for someone. If you are able to make a mark in whatever you might do, whether you are doing teaching or whether you are doing in environmental domain or you are doing in industrial domain, make sure that you are able to create, have your stamp, have your mark. That will keep your head high and that will make your respect also very high. Always do that. And therefore, don't let the crisis or the difficulties go just on the wayside. You just seize those opportunities to make sure that you get the answers and make a mark. COVID is one such thing. And therefore, I would say that you may be an engineer. You may be doing whatever you are there. Entire domain of engineering should be yours, because I already given you the examples of KV Kamath, Sundar Pichai, Steve Jobs possibly could be there, and there can be many more examples which are there from N. Chandrasekaran to various others. And therefore, for you, if I can say the top 20, top 5 skills which one should have for 2020, whether you are an engineer or not. Of course, many of you will be becoming engineer in 2024, 25. So one is the ability of complex problem solving. What I was advising you was first know what is the complexity in the problem, why it is a complex problem. But the biggest attribute which will give you the highest wanted skill is the complex problem solving. And once you know the problem, the immediate thing is you need critical thinking, how to solve it, how to crack it, what can be new, what can be refashioned, what can be re-triggered. Sometimes the old examples are the best examples to get the new answers which are there. And therefore, critical thinking. Another thing, creativity. Creativity has to be when your mind is not bounded by conventions. You are free from clutter. I think creativity comes that. Creativity probably can be another word for your innovation, which is there. Then, of course, the last two, which I'll say, are so all the three fall into the same category, that you look at the world differently. You question why, when, what, how, where, kind of a thing. All those 4 W's and all those 1 H you keep raising every time you learn something new. I think you will be there for complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity will come to you. The remaining 2, if you see the Nobel laureates of the today in science and technology, they are generally not singular. Not now, even in last 10 years. They are giving to multiple people across continents, across countries, across some things, whatever are there. And therefore, the next 2 attributes, where I say India is failing very badly. In fact, we have no concrete examples to quote. And the domain is the people and the teamwork and coordinating with others. People's management, the teamwork and coordinating with others. We may have individual excellent scientists and technologists and people who can do wonders, but I have not known much big names when it comes to the teams in India who are doing wonders. I think if you can have these 2 more skills, these top 5 skills will be for every engineer the real thing if they want to make their mark. And that is what my advice. However, rest of the skills you can keep finding, but don't miss an opportunity to play games, because while you play games, and I do a lot, by the way, I played squash and bridge. Squash is the most physical and bridge is the most mental. I love both of them. And they give you one another important attribute, that you will keep failing. In bridge, if I score 60%, I can be a typical winner. So you can understand, average will be 50%. And if I score 60%, I can be a winner. So difference between a winner and a runner and a loser is hardly anything. Therefore, you'll have to train yourself like that you can be a loser on even your best day sometimes. The same thing goes with the what you call the squash or the sports. That is sports, typically winner is given heavy due in recognition. No one knows what happened to India in various cricket World Cups except for 1983 and 2011, because we won. So we cannot always win. Make sure that you also learn how to lose. And when you lose, what happens, how to take failures in your stride. I think that will be another advice I'd like to give you.
I think thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure hosting you, and I'm sure the students also have asked all the questions that they wanted to ask and got most of the answers also. As I said to the students, all this, the version of Dr. Sancheti has just spoken would be on YouTube on our channel, Career 360 channel. We'll also be putting it on our website with a transcription. If you still have any questions, please shoot it to us. The website name is career360.com/Q&A. Go to Q&A and put up any of your question, and we'll be more than happy to reach out to Dr. Sancheti again and then getting back to you with an answer wherever we can. Thank you so much for being a part of this, sir.
Thank you, Maheshwarji. Thank you, Careers 360. And thank you all the audience, all the young budding engineers. My best wishes to you in whatever you do in your life, and hope we'll catch up sometime soon again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Namaskar.